All right, good noon, everybody here in Central Standard Time, and wherever you are, good day to you. It is Double Check Dale sitting over there along with Drive Safe Dave, everyone, and we're sitting here talking to you on a thankful Thursday, a Thursday in which what is so special about today, Double Check, that we might want to celebrate or might even want to sing a little happy birthday song to
the Marine Corps.
The Marine Corps.
U.S. Marine Corps has their birthday today.
Is that? I think we even have a cool little
slide
thing,
to show.
right?
There we go.
Oh, it was up for a second. There you go. All righty, happy birthday to the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Hoorah, as they say.
Hoorah.
All right, I'll tell you what, it is nice to have everybody here today. Look, we've got a lot going on, but before we get any further and we talk anything about the news, I think it's important that we talk about what's going on in the country with weather. I think it does need mentioning with a hurricane landing when?
Man, yeah, hurricane landing down in Florida. We got a blizzard up in the Midwest, upper Midwest. We got strong winds going through there. So there's a lot of stuff happening in the weather. Of course, it's fall going into winter. We are going to see those changes. Hey, the hurricane down in Florida came ashore last night. Category 1, winds at 75 miles an hour. It has been downgraded to a tropical storm. It is up around Tallahassee right now. We are starting to see the remnants of that. Still strong winds, still a lot of rain going on in the area. And so don't travel in there because travel is greatly affected by this. Greatly affected.
It is greatly. You know, you still have a lot of rain.
Yeah.
You still have a lot of water on the road, and it can be blinding. You know, and
well, the winds. I mean, winds are still up to 70 miles an hour in places.
That'll
blow you off the road.
That'll blow you off the road, and it makes it difficult to see. I mean, it does.
The wind is going sideways,
especially when branches and items are blowing across the road. Look. Another hurricane has hit ashore in Florida, and is pushing north. It's going to affect the East Coast here for the next couple of days as it rains itself out all the way into the Northeast. It's going to be a rain event. At this point, it is a strong rain event, right?
Yep. Up through Georgia and South Carolina will be the next two states to really catch that rain. In fact, Georgia is already catching it. South Carolina later today is going to start seeing those heavy rains, flash flooding, and all that stuff that goes with it, and the winds that are along with it. So be very aware of that if you're traveling in that area or if you have plans to go out there. Check before you get out there. Check the road conditions. Check the weather conditions. Save yourself some headaches of getting caught someplace where you don't need to be.
Yeah, I think it's going to follow that 95 corridor all the way up, just to the west of it. It's going to run it all the way up.
It's a good roadway. Why not, man?
It's traveling northbound. Also, the cold's coming in this week.
Yeah.
Pushing in from the north, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why that hurricane turned and went back eastward. It was coming all the way across, and then it turned right and headed northeast is because it's pushing down from the north, right?
It is pushing down from the north. We got a blizzard going on up in North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, snow as far south into Nebraska Panhandle. So a lot going on there, and some very cold temperatures to go along with that. And that is pushing, like you said, to the south and to the east. And so got to keep an eye on that. If you're up in those areas, be aware of it. Hey, have some winter clothes along, some warm clothing along. Be prepared for that stuff.
It's coming, folks. You didn't think it was going to happen. Yeah. We all had seen these high temperatures all summer, and we thought they were going to last forever. Yeah. We thought global warming has affected us all. We'll never see cold weather again.
That's right. We got the sunscreen all stocked up because we're going out there, but no, the cold temperatures are coming in.
I think here locally, it's not going to get above 50-something degrees the whole week after for a week.
Yeah, 50, folks.
Well, I know that y'all are laughing, but we are in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I grew up in Northwest Iowa, so 50. I mean, that's still balmy. That's still short sleeve weather.
It is fat boy weather, but I'm telling you, we're going to enjoy it. But I haven't seen a week of 50 since last year.
No, and typically the temperatures don't stay at that constant in Texas for 7 days. So, a couple.
Yeah, normally we get 2 good cold days, and then I got to take a jacket off.
Get that sunscreen out.
Because it'll be back up in the 70s. But we anticipate we're going to have some cold weather across the country. Make sure that you understand where you're at, where you're going, and what you're doing. Make sure that you prepare yourself for wherever it is you're headed, that you know that what you're going into, because you might come from a very warm region and then push yourself into a very cold region and not have the gear or the weather or whatever you have. Put a jacket in the truck, right?
Yes. Put a jacket in, maybe some foodstuffs that you can heat or eat without having to heat up and eat. Well, of course, there's foodstuffs.
Always have foodstuffs. You're talking my language.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. Always have foodstuffs. Look, before we do anything else, I want to remind there was an interesting article that came out. And it was talking about, we've always been talking about truck parking and it being a major problem.
Always an issue.
Always an issue across the country. And I saw that Ohio answers some of the parking needs by converting way stations. Now, I get putting a Band-Aid on an
open wound.
On a severed limb. But let me tell you, here it is, truck parking, no facilities, by converting some way stations. Look, I get it. It's a chance to park and get some rest in wherever when they don't have some. But most of the time, the way stations aren't close to a metropolitan area where they're delivering. And most of the time, I don't know about the rest of you. This isn't the answer, right?
No, not long term.
Look, the reason I say that is I don't want everybody to go, well, we've got the answer. Yeah. This is not the answer.
Yeah, we fixed it.
It's not fixed.
No,
okay,
not.
This is, I get, and when you say some parking needs, this is a Band-Aid.
yeah, some very.
I mean, who doesn't wake up and have to go to the bathroom?
Not me.
I don't.
4 times a night.
What?
3-4 times a night. I'm of that age where
I want us to have genuine, solid solutions on parking, right?
Yep.
Safe parking.
Safe parking in areas that's easily accessible. Have some facilities there. You got to have the facilities. You can't expect somebody to shut down for 10 hours and not be able to, use the restroom. So, it doesn't make sense.
Are we going to be honest with ourselves? Is this the solution? Look, I like that, but this isn't the answer. This is not what we need. Some good, solid answers. We need business. We need corporations. We need everybody to step up to the plate and find a way in which we can resolve this big problem. I'm tired of it.
Yep.
We've been talking about it for years.
Years and years, and it's not gotten any better. I mean, it just seems to get worse and worse every year. I mean, because
we're not going to draw talent into this industry. We're not going to get women to come in here by the droves and do what they need to do and be truck drivers if they can't have safe parking. We're not, and as a guy, I want safe parking.
Heck yeah.
I want to be confident that where I sleep tonight, I'm okay and I don't have to worry about what's going on. I want everyone to understand this isn't the answer. All right? This is just a Band-Aid on the problem. I want real solutions. I want people to figure out a way in which, and by the way, trucks deliver and pick up from metropolitan areas. Do they not? I mean,
yes, I think they do, Dave.
That's where we're bringing it to. I mean, there's 8 million people there. It just doesn't float in on a ship.
No, it doesn't get delivered by a car. It does. They don't see those cars at the warehouses.
No, guys, we've got to find real solutions. We have to find real parking solutions close to these very metropolitan areas, and understand that we've got to do that for each other, and we've got to make sure that government is listening, that business is listening, and that every individual that can hear my voice is listening and wanting to do something about it. Why doesn't your congressman know? If you believe this to be a problem, why have you voiced your concern to your congressman? Have you made them aware that you too, as their constituent, want something done about this? Because it's necessary.
Yeah.
Look, we've just had our elections. Let's get them to work on this. Let's get some solutions. What are you going to tell your how many do you think I've written my senators and my congressmen?
I know you have.
You bet I have.
I know you
bet I have. You bet I have. And I'm sure they're tired of hearing it, but they don't need to just hear it from Drive Safe Dave.
No, and I know we have drivers. I've spoken to a couple drivers that have called their senators and their legislatures representatives and said, hey, this is ridiculous out here. We got to get some parking. We got to get some safe parking in places that don't put us at risk and with facilities. People always talk about throwing those bottles out full of whatever. if we give them facilities, that goes away. We take care of the problem.
Absolutely.
It's just not good putting them in a place just because there's a concrete someplace to pull in and park. You got to have more than that.
In the dark.
Yeah, you got to have more than that.
You got to have more than that. All right,
we deserve more than that.
I'll tell you what, we're going to break away here for just a second. When we come back, we're going to bring a fellow podcaster and a professional to the studio via what? What is that? Via the internet.
Yeah.
And via the internet. We're going to bring a professional in here, a sound professional who's going to bring some common sense right here to the show. We'll be right back after this quick break. All right, Drive Safe Dave back here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation, and I have Charles Gracie here, host of Cents Per Mile podcast. How are you doing, Charles?
I'm good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, are you going to get any of that rain over there in Chattanooga from this hurricane, or is it going to just miss y'all by going a little bit to the east?
Verdict is still out. It's looking like we're going to get a little bit of it, but not nearly.
One of those outer bands, a little bit of, just a little bit. And you know what's nice about that, Charles? I'm just going to tell you, you can say I lived through Hurricane Nicole. Yeah, I actually, I survived Hurricane Nicole in
I'll go
Chattanooga.
out and pick up one of the T-shirts.
I made it. I was one of the survivors. It's crazy. We've had two hit, not almost the whole year, and then we've had two hit with almost a month of each other into Florida. Kind of a crazy deal, right?
It is, and it's unfortunate, especially for those that are in the mass of it. But, as always, resiliency of the people. I think we're going to get through it and band together.
Me too. Those guys, they're solid on their election. They're solid on their hurricanes, right? We got two things going for them down in Florida. All right, Charles, let's get down to the nitty gritty. First of all, before we dive into Cents Per Mile, let's talk a little bit about your side gig.
So, yeah, I'm the president of Hot Seat Services, a full-service recruiting team that operates anything from lead gen management for our clients, third-party pay-per-hire recruiting, rent-a-recruiter, or even training workshops to help sharpen the team that they already have in place.
And recruiting truck drivers?
Yes, absolutely. Truck drivers. That's what we specialize in. I grew up in the industry, so it was important for me when I worked at carriers and I saw that there was a void in how this was done properly to put a solution in place that could both benefit the drivers and the carriers.
So let me ask you a quick question. When you say you grew up in the industry, obviously you have been in the industry, but you said your father also, Charles, also was in the industry?
Yeah, so my father was a driver and a terminal manager, and then when he retired as a terminal manager, went back to driving and now works for me as a recruiter.
So been around the industry a little bit, and you also are bringing up Charles the third, right, in that same limelight of the trucking industry?
Absolutely. He's been involved with it just like I was incorporated in my dad's work life. I've incorporated him in ours, tried to keep him excited about what trucking's all about, what it can be, and bringing his fresh twist to it himself. And he's already decided he wants to do a podcast, wants to talk about trucking, and wants to hire good drivers for good jobs, which no tagline in that, but he's sharp.
Yeah. No tagline. Hey, so let's ask real quick, how did you start Hot Seat Services? I mean, and why did you start your own company?
So I was working for a carrier as a recruiting VP, and I was dealing with all these vendors and shelling out all this money like all the carriers out there are doing. And the one problem I had was everyone's shelling out this money, but nobody was coming to me saying that there might be a problem or a better way. Instead, I have to identify the problem and go to them. which at that point, that's a problem. If I'm spending money, you should be my advocate. So I saw an opening there. I actually suggested to a couple friends that are in the same space that they should open up a company and do this. They didn't, and so I started it as a side gig. I was working still at the carrier. It was just a side hustle to try to help that carrier I was at. And then it grew to the point where I had to resign and just focus on hot seat services.
How and now that you're working on hot seat services, and you supply where all across the country or all in all 48,
Yeah.
is that where you're working? And if
Yeah,
somebody wants to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you over there?
So they could either go to our website, hotseatservices.com, or they can send an email to info@hotseatservices.com, and one of the members of our team or myself will reach out and try to address any questions or concerns they may have.
Look, I'm just going to ask you, what sets you apart from the others? Honestly, what sets you apart? You got to tell me that.
Being a former driver and growing up in the industry, I've done everything from working in the shop to driving the truck to what I do now, and so I generally care about communicating the proper expectations, not only that the driver should have, but that the carrier should have when looking for drivers. If they have something that doesn't make sense, I'm not going to work with it. I'm not going to try to promote something I don't believe in.
Do you and when you talk about that, are you when you first walk into a business? So let's just say I'm the carrier, right? I'm a carrier, and I call you and I say, hey, you know what, Charles? How are you going to prove to me your worth, your value of what I'm going to pay out? Because that is an expense, right? You're talking about shelling out cash. How are you going to make this value to me genuinely over time? I understand it's not something that happens overnight, but I understand that it is the long game, not the short game. What is it you're going to bring to the table for me so that I know that this is the right investment for me?
So depending on your needs, we have commitments where you're not paying anything until you get the hire. So it's guaranteed cost per hire model. You make the hire, then you get charged for the driver. That's just typical third-party recruiting, or we refer to it as pay per hire, because we didn't want to fall in that stigma, how negative that industry has viewed those people, because they just throw drivers at the wall and hope they stick. Outside of that, what's going to build our trust with the carrier is our onboarding process. We generally want to get to know everything that carrier has to offer, from their culture behind the scenes to their front lines. We want to know the speed of the trucks, what they're outfitted with, what the expectations that they have for the drivers, and bring them to the reality of what the driver's expectations are. So generally, when we're doing our onboarding, that's when it clicks with a carrier. Oh, these people actually care. They want to get to know us. We want to recruit with retention in mind, and that happens from doing it the right way and just being honest with both sides.
You know, and as you mentioned that, and as we continue to talk about it, it's ultimately necessary for you to have a great connection and build relationships with the driver too, not just with the carrier, but you got to go out there and you got to actually build that trust if you're going to bring them in, right? In a quality, because if I'm a quality driver and I may not be happy where I'm at, I know there's a million opportunities out there for me. I need, you know, and I'm going to be promised the world. Right, Charles? I mean, by many, many different people. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So how do you create that trusting relationship with those guys that are just like, oh, yeah, whatever?
Being honest, not BSing them. I talk to them from my experience, just like I've trained my recruiters and my fellow teammates to do the same. Talk to them like people. Understand that these are real people with livelihoods, obligations to their family and their loved ones. You're not just putting a number in a chair. And we really stress that. Be honest, get the answers, don't BS your way through it. Listen to what their wants are and match them up with a job that fits those wants, because then there's two types of people in the world. You got the people with problems and the people with solutions. We want to be the driver and carrier's solution.
All right, so I'm gonna jump a little bit here, and I'm just gonna ask. So tell me about Cents Per Mile podcast. Tell me what that is, because obviously you got the cool headphones and the cool microphone, and you got that deep voice, you know, that radio voice going. So tell me what the Cents Per Mile podcast is all about.
So Cents Per Mile was an idea that I had before we merged with the Cub Ventures team, and they helped us make it a reality. The point was we wanted a platform that we could share our experience both for the drivers and the carriers alike, and address those issues that people generally don't want to talk about, or they're very soft about how they talk about them because they don't want to make one side or another mad.
For example.
Inward-facing cameras, brokers, politics.
Don't bring up the last one ever on this show again. Because you and I both know that's a rabbit hole me and you will go down and never get out of. Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you. It's great to know that people are out there talking about the things that need to be brought up. And I think inward-facing cameras are a reality that we're all going to have to face at some point or another. I mean, honestly, Charles, do you foresee in the next 10 years that that's not a reality for every driver out there on the road?
No, I absolutely do, because insurance dictates the pace of a lot of things. And we've seen from the driver's perspective that it makes them uncomfortable. I remember when they were first being implemented when I was a driver. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It was the most expensive hat rack that my carrier provided. I even went as far as greasing my finger and touching it to clean it and leaving a greasy fingerprint. But now that I work on the carrier side and on behalf of them, I've also seen it exonerate drivers from being automatically guilty until proven innocent. So it is one of those things where it's a double-edged sword, and proper communication and use of these platforms is going to be beneficial to our industry and bringing the drivers on board and letting them see the benefit of having this system.
Yeah, I know, and I do like the fact that the conversation is there, right? And that's what Cents Per Mile's doing. It's generally talking about it, not trying to sell the product. You're trying to talk about the reality of it, because I think that's really what we want to be. And here at BCB Live about safety, I think that's what we try to do and talk about, is that the reality of safety. We try to have fun with it. We try to make sure that everybody understands the different aspects of it. It's not different in the United States as it is in other countries. Safety is safety. It's paramount by nature. It is what we do and how we need to survive in this industry. I think it's going to be created. I would love to have the opportunity to come on your show and talk about safety sometime and about how important a role it needs to be played in the industry. It is a passion here. And let me talk to you about that. I get the inward-facing cameras and where that is applied to, because, and I know that's the kind of conversations you have. How many of the ones do you find are passionate in the safety realm? Because I want to hear a little bit about Cents by the Mile, because to me the miles don't make any sense unless there's safety involved. And that's my deal here. And I know that sounds crazy, and I just thought of that. What are you doing in regards to safety, and when you talk to carriers, and how important is to the drivers, the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, so whether it be cents per mile or hot seat services, like I said, we service two clients, the drivers and the carriers. And safety is a big fraction of that. You can't have drivers out there with my wife and children on the road, or my friends and family on the road, that are being unsafe. So you have to keep that in mind when you're recruiting these drivers. And when we're doing the show, you have to keep in mind that education is safety. We want the audience, which is the drivers and the carriers, to be safe with the general motoring public. So education, a lot of what we're doing is educating people in a fun way, making it where it's interesting and they want to tune in. But just like with the recruiting, education, sometimes it's reallocating our efforts to educate them on the why, rather than just saying this is the here and now and you must accept it.
How did Cub Ventures get you started in this side of it? I'm just curious. I want to know that part of it real quick. You said you were open book. Let's go there.
Yeah, so Cub Ventures owns Veterans in Trucking, CDL Life, Bright Lights Media, and a conglomerate of companies that are under that umbrella. Directly, they were a competitor of mine when I got started, but we found a lot of synergies working together on the benefits of our clients, as well as with their driver network that they advertise to. So over time, there was so many synergies that we couldn't ignore the benefits it would bring to their client base as well as mine to work together. And eventually it became a merger of the brands with myself and Cub Venture, and it's been a great team. I mean, I'm thrilled to be part of it. I had this idea of cents per mile, and because I was a smaller business, it was something that I had to inch up to. And immediately within joining their team, here it became a reality. And now I get to work with one of the people I love, my co-host Paul Gibson, who is just a media master. So he was the one behind giving me this studio in order to just build the brand even further.
Do you have and when you bring this perspective that you have onto the show, right, with your business sense and talking about these things, and obviously you bring a different perspective with some history. How do you keep it invigorated and different? You know, how do you make it different? We do the same. We have the same issues every day, right? I come to the show every day, and I'm going through the sheets, and I'm trying to find, you know, that hot story. You know, Russia's backing out of Kherson today in a withdrawal. You know, I don't want to tell the news like everybody else is telling it. I mean, I want to make sure the show is got stuff people want to hear about right now in what we're talking about. How do you find that?
So, being that I talk and our company talks to drivers all day, every day, and that I work on behalf of so many carriers, I get to see these hot button issues and things that matter to them. And that's kind of what we talk about. And then the things that they don't want to talk about are even more exciting to cover. Like nobody's saying, oh, please bring me on the show and make me the devil's advocate for cameras. Or please tell me how great brokers are. But yet here we are doing these exciting topics to cover and just try to bring a light onto things. Again, education that can be fun is going to help everyone understand exactly where drivers may feel about brokers versus inward-facing cameras, where carriers might see the advocacy.
How about, have you talked about speed limiters yet? Because that's coming,
it's
right?
Coming. It's coming, and it's one of those
coming.
Things.
Wait till you get to that hot topic with drivers, because they all got something to say on that, right?
And I drove.
Me too. Me too for years, and I'll tell you, it makes sense. There's two sides to every story, and I'll tell you they need to be told. I think you're doing a great job in doing that, and also bringing up these difficult discussions, because it's important to hear the other. So many times we tune out the other side. Yeah. I mean, and let me just tell you, that's being done in the politics world of late, right? So they're just tuning each other out and not listening to, you know, everyone else, right? They already have the answer. So I think that's a little bit of a problem.
They think they have the answers.
Yeah, that's what, well, ask them. They'll tell you they have them. But
my son does too, and he's 12.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, Charles, what you're doing is a great service by going out there and talking about it in both ways, right? You're bringing up the driver's aspect of it. You're talking to them. They're discussing it, and it's going into an open format. I think it needs to be done. How do we hear your podcast? I want to know, where do we get it? How often does it take place? Is it every day? Is it once a week? Is it and when can we expect the next one? And where do we listen to it at?
Yeah, so you can Google Cents Per Mile on all the major listening platforms. We're there. You can subscribe to us on YouTube under Cents Per Mile, or by following Hot Seat Services, Cents Per Mile, or even CDL Life's pages on LinkedIn. We're posting it up every bi-weekly, usually dropping on Fridays, and then we give little snippets of it throughout the week in between episodes.
Can you give me a little hint on what the next one's going to be about? Can you give me a clue?
Brokers.
The Make Me Brokers.
Actually, I'm excited about this one because we put a post out and we were looking for brokers to come on and answer drivers' questions from the CDL Life app. And drivers, as you know, aren't going to hold back on the brokers, and we offered them to be completely nameless, hidden, everything. We had someone come on that had no shame and said, hey, I want to do this. I don't need to be nameless. I'm going to address these questions. And they didn't hold back, and neither did we. It's going to be an exciting episode. Nice.
I like that. I definitely like it when people take the full blast of a truck driver. You know, we've all been there. We've all done that. You know, when a driver gets mad, they let you know, and which is good. And I think it's important that we have those conversations. I'll bet it was good for both sides, right? That you know, in that moment. And you know, the broker, he's probably heard most of it all before. And the drivers have probably heard some of those. But to actually have that conversation is necessary in making sure that we get it, right? Because there are two sides, right? There may be a wall between them, but there are two sides to that wall. And
trying to take those opinions and bring them together, where people can see the other perspective. You know, perception is reality. A lot of times these decisions are made up high level, and no one's taking in the guy at the bottom's opinion. And I think that's where this industry needs to go. They need to listen to the drivers, the mechanics, everyone, because you'd be surprised what kind of solutions they can offer to these everyday problems.
Charles, let me ask you real quick. What's the best thing you've gotten out of the podcast? What is it given to you?
It's given us a platform to bring awareness to issues that I found very near and dear to myself that nobody was covering, and I think it's got a lot of room to grow. It's in its early stages, but I'm excited for just what our network has done for us, tuning in and getting us to this point this fast.
Let me say, are you thinking about leaving your side gig with Hot Seats and staying on the podcast full time? Are we thinking about this as a permanent career?
I definitely see it sticking around for a long time, but I love what I do. I love putting drivers in good jobs and giving good jobs access to good drivers. So I'm not sure I could ever let that go. I truly enjoy that part of it.
So let me do, before we get out of here, let me make sure everybody knows that Hot Seat Services, if you need to talk to about recruiting, how do they get a hold of you? At hotseatservices.com, is that correct?
Yeah, they can message us through our instant messenger on hotseatservices.com or email us at info@hotseatservices.com.
Perfect. And they can listen to you as well on cents per mile in all the platforms that you described earlier, correct?
Absolutely. We encourage it.
All right. Hey, you know what, Charles? Thanks for coming in here. But before you get out of here, I ask all of our guests to before they go, I ask them all to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that?
Yeah, I got you. So I'm Charles Gracie with Hot Seat Services, and you're with BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
There you go. Thank you much, Charles, man. Have a great day, and we will see you later. Okay, sir?
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye now. That's Charles Gracie over there at Hot Seat Services and also doing his Cents Per Mile podcast, man. Make sure you get a chance, tune in, listen to some of the stuff going on between. Man, I'm kind of excited about the broker truck driver debate fixing to happen over there. So kind of excited about it. Make sure you get on and get in and listen to what's coming up. All right, when we come back in just a second, we'll bring in Double Check Dale, and we're going to talk a little bit about safety before we get out of here. We'll be right back.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety. One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
All right, welcome back. Drive Safe Dave here, along with Double Check Dale. Got a little excited there.
Hey, there's a lot to get excited about on this Thankful Thursday.
It is a Thankful Thursday, and all right, so let's talk a little bit about this A-Tree crash preventer. What do you got for us today?
Well, it's predicting truck crashes. You know, and ELDs, we think back when ELDs were first introduced, part of the thought process there was that it was going to reduce fatigue-related crashes. Okay, to date, A-Tree says there's no accurate way to measure this. However, since ELDs have been introduced, truck crashes have gone down 7%. So, although they can't prove it's the ELDs, truck crashes are trending down. So some good things have come out of it.
No, I think it's great. I like that. It's 7%. We'll take 7%.
Yes.
We would take 100% in truck crashes if you gave us the opportunity. We wouldn't want to have any one of them, but to know that there's something out there that is helping to mitigate some of the fatigue. And fatigue is a mitigating factor in truck crashes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Fatigue factors in so often, even if the driver doesn't want to admit to it. I wasn't tired, but a lot of times ELDs and a lot of things get put in place because of the bad actors, the bad apples.
Let me just tell you, and I'm just going to say, there's been many a times when I've got up and said, "Oh, I'm not hurt." I was lying. And there's been many a times I've gotten and I've done, and I go, "Oh, I'm not tired. I got this." Yep. And there's been, I'm just saying, we don't tell ourselves the truth, let alone someone else very often. I mean, we lie to ourselves more than we lie to anybody else.
Yeah. That's true. A lot of times we think, well, it's 10 hours down. Just because you have 10 hours down doesn't mean you get 10 hours of rest in there.
I don't get 10 hours. I don't get a full rest in 7 hours.
In 34 hours.
I can't even sleep, and then I'm up, and it hurts, and I got this problem, and I got to go where I need a drink of water. What's up with that? When did that start happening, that I needed a drink of water in the middle of the night?
Yeah. No, Dave, I don't have the answer for you on that one. I
What
really
is
don't.
up? I don't even, does that happen? I had to, you know, wish my dad was still around. I'd ask him, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think back my dad and all the things that he used to do, you know, around bedtime and stuff like that, get ready for it. Now I'm doing.
He was never tired.
I'm starting to understand why he did some of the stuff
He was
did.
always okay. I'm okay. Dad, you're bleeding. Yeah.
That's okay.
It'll be fine.
That's right.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah. Just rub me. I'll just put a big piece of duct tape on that open wound. I'll be good.
That's a baling wire. We'll just tie it off.
We'll
with
just
that.
tie it off. No, I joke around in all seriousness, but we've got to find a way to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're going to increase this from 7% to 50%, or I think we really need to be honest with what we can and can't, or what we should and shouldn't do.
Yeah, and we have to listen to the drivers that are saying, because I still think a lot of it comes back to management and operations. The drivers telling them one thing, and we're not really listening. We're really not.
Oh, I
hearing
think
about it. So,
I absolutely
and
agree.
so-
I think we're all ultimately responsible what the driver feels out there and how they should feel. I'll tell you, it is important to understand not only what the driver says, but the tone in which they say it,
Yep.
the inflection, and if they pause in a conversation or a question, heed that, because sometimes what they don't say is just as important, if not more important, than what was said.
Absolutely true.
And I think that we've gotten away because of this texting and these messages. We've gotten away from understanding what people are saying. I can say a lot of things in a message that can be taken many, many ways. I think I sent somebody the other. They took it entirely the wrong way, and I read it like 5 times, and then it clicked on me. Oh, well, if you read it, if you were thinking that, then
It took the inflection a little different on it.
yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So or if I put a comma here, it may not be or a period in a new sentence. It might go over a little bit better. But the point is,
got to learn to listen.
Gotta learn to
know what they're saying.
and these crash predictors that Atri has out that we're talking about today make sense, right? Read it, understand it, and then take a good hard look at yourself, because it doesn't do any good if you take the data from the crash predictor and you don't apply it in some way and find a solution.
Yeah.
We're not saying that the crash predictor says this guy's going to have a wreck.
No.
But what we are saying is more likely to
Yep.
if nothing's done.
Nothing's done. Change our behaviors.
If we don't change something.
Be honest with yourself. And you said it earlier. Just be honest with yourself. When you read that and you go, oh, that's not me. Maybe it is. Take that second look. Be honest with yourself.
Or I
Make
do
those
have,
changes.
or I do have, 19 drivers with violations in this category. Maybe I need to just talk to each one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have a good conversation so that they know that what we know and we all understand how important it is. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and watch a quick video or two before we get out of here.
Let's do that.
Let's do a video.
Oh, just probably too close. Not even probably too close.
Why
we
would
are
you say
too,
probably?
we are too
We're
close.
a half a second away.
That's behavior. That's behavioral right there. We've done this for years. I know what I'm doing. That's behavioral. You just have to be honest with yourself and say, I'm too close. Back
Absolutely.
out of it. And again, not as severe as the last time, but we're still too close. We just got to understand that we're in somebody else's space. We don't have the adequate time to get stopped if something goes wrong in front
And we're
of us.
looking for you to react accordingly, right? If you're too close, tap, get out of it. Understand it, just get out of it, right? All right, next video. No, don't say it. Don't say it.
Can I say it now? Stop means stop.
Why are we not stopping? I think it's important that we continue to look at these
Yeah.
and realize and help everybody understand there's a stop line there for a reason. And you know what? I know you were close.
Yep.
All right? And I know you think you stopped, but you didn't. We're going to continue to show these.
Yeah.
We are going to continue to show these. We want you to see them because we know you do it too. Whether you're in your four-wheeler, whether you're in your 18-wheeler, we don't care. Your 8-wheeler, your 6-wheeler, your whatever wheeler you're in, it's still a stop sign. And you know what? You got to stop with a bicycle too, by the way. Y'all get that, right? You still have to stop.
Those rules still apply to the bicycle.
They still apply to bicycles or motorcycles. It still apply.
Yeah. I mean, and this is just being honest with yourself. Just being honest with yourself. Did I stop? Well,
No.
I got close. No, you didn't. Close doesn't count in this one.
We don't count close. Next video.
Good hard break here. Traffic's coming to a stop.
And a good distance. Look at the concrete, amount of concrete between
Yep.
the
And
vehicle.
think if we don't have that following distance to start this out, and we're not paying attention to how differently this ends, because the only out for this vehicle is in front of him because there's so much traffic on both sides
Right.
of him.
Fantastic job, and I like the cushion there. I might throw on the 4-ways in this moment so that I get video, a look behind me to let everybody know I'm stopped on the freeway for a reason, because that right lane and that left lane aren't safe at this moment.
No.
So you got to understand, just be careful here.
Yep. My bubble worked there. I
Yeah,
had my
good
space.
job. You know what? Kudos to that driver.
Yep. Excellent stuff right there. Excellent stuff. Good show, Dave.
Was it a good show?
was a
I
good
think
show.
it was too. It was a really good show.
Yes.
Really good shoe. All right, I'll tell you
And
what.
one last happy birthday to those Marines.
Happy. All right, everybody. Hey, I'll tell you what. Have a great and wonderful day. And remember, you are watching BCB Live.
The safest station in the nation.
And we will be here tomorrow as well at 12 o'clock Central Standard Time to bring you some more safety. I think tomorrow we're having a panel interview. And I can't wait. I want to make a special announcement. Next week, we will be broadcasting live from Women in Trucking right here in Dallas.
Excellent.
We can't wait to get out there and interview some of the most fascinating people in the industry. Yes, sir.
Y'all will be there. I will be here taking the feed in.
Okay, feed being brought here directly to the studio, going back out. But I'm telling you, really excited about doing that next week, Monday, Tuesday. It is going to be fun. We've got so many interviews lined up already to some of the most famous women in trucking today. A lot of talent, a lot of individuals out there. And I can't wait to show them off to next week. We've got to see some of this, talk to them. I just want to make sure everybody knows that we'll be doing that next week here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We'll see y'all tomorrow at 12 o'clock.